Okay, so make sure that you've picked up the notes and that you have, here we go. Let me see what we've got here. And make sure you picked up the notes. You've done your quick quad. The substitute should have gone over the quick quad with you by now. Note your homework is the worksheet that you picked up. Please wait until after you have finished these notes to do that assignment or to do that homework. This is for grading your homework. It's an old key. You can feel free to pause this video at any time so you can grade it. But notice it has proportions. See here. So this work is incorrect, but the answer is correct. So just make sure that you're ignoring the work, but just using this to check your answer. All right. This is the key information. Grand total. So hopefully you found all those yesterday. Once again, proportions. All right. We're supposed to use equations. My handwriting is even worse on this. So just make sure that you're ignoring that stuff, focusing exclusively on the answers there. Okay. You can pause this video to check your answers. Here's the third one. Once again, proportions. Like I told you, this is an old key. But this is what we're looking for. Right down here. All right, you can pause the video to check your answers. And then these are all as they are. So, I mean, I would just pause the video, check your answers, and then you can press play again. It'll go over in about 2 seconds or so. Give you another minute or so, another couple of seconds. Make sure that you've paused the video to check your answers, please. All right, so we're talking about percent of change today. So a lot of times you're like, well, from last year to this year, I got 10% taller, or that thing cost 10% more than it did last year, or sales are like 40% off of the old price. That's actually a percent of change. It's not anything to do with, excuse me, not anything to do with what we've been talking about so far. So here's the kind of the idea. Last year, there were 888 students at FJH. This year, there are 1,010 students. Was this an increase or decrease? I think you guys know what the answer to that's going to be. All right. It's going to be an increase. So today, we're going to determine by what percent the numbers increased or decreased. So what percent did that increase from 888 to 1,010? So big key definition, percent of change. It's the percent that a quantity increases or decreases from its original amount. And of course, we're going to continue to use the same equation, right? Same equation as before. But here, those things mean something completely different. So P stands for percent, but this case, it means the percent of change. Notice, as a decimal, right? W means the whole, or in this context, the original number. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, the original number. And A stands for amount once again, but it's the amount of change. Okay, that's a big one, amount of change. So not just any amount, but the amount that it changed from the original to the new amount. Okay, that's what it means. So to find each percent of change, we'll label the answer as an increase or decrease, and we'll round each answer to the nearest tenth of percent as needed. Okay, so here's the example. 12 to 20. Is that an increase or a decrease? Increase. What was the amount of change? Well, from 12 to 20, you would subtract. 20 minus 12 equals 8. All right? So what was the original number? 12. And now we have enough information. So we are trying to find the percent. Okay, we're trying to find the percent. You'll need your calculator for this one. Okay. So we're looking for the percent, so we don't know it. The original number was 12. The amount of change was 8. And so we need to get P by itself, right? So what do? We divide both sides by 12. And 8 divided by 12 is 0.6 repeating. But we want to write it as a percent. So if we think about it as this, a few more percents. I'm not sure what just happened there, but it looks funny, but that's okay. We can deal. We move that decimal place over 2 spots, and it's 66.7% equals P. Because we have to round up, right? 66.6666, etc. Round to the nearest tenth, we round up. Okay. Look at the next one. Find the percentage change, same exact stuff. So is this an increase or a decrease from 40 to 24? Is this an increase or a decrease? And what was the amount of change? We do that by subtraction. We find out how much it changed. 40 minus 24 equals, and I would use your calculator just because you always want to double check to make sure you're right. 16, and that's A. That's the amount of change. The original number, that's W, right? The original number was 40. And so now we've got our values, okay? We're looking for percent. The original number was 40. The amount of change was 16. And so we isolate our variable, divide both sides by 40. And we use our calculator to divide 16 by 40. 16 divided by 40 is 0.4, which where move that decimal place 2 spots is 40%. Now, is that a 40% increase or decrease? So that'd be a 40% decrease, right? 40% decrease because we were decreasing. Now, when we're talking about word problems, in order to find the original amount in the word problem, so this case is if we need to find the original amount. So on the previous problems, we were finding, we were finding the percent. In this case, we need to find the original amount. The key thing that we have to look for is not the one that appears first in the problem, but the one that occurred first in time. So we actually have to really think about that. So if it changed over the course of 2 months, we'd have to think about what was it at the very beginning of that. So here, my 2005 Honda Pilot is now worth $2,500. If the purchase price was $20,000, what is the percent of change? Okay, so the key thing here is remembering that we have to identify what we're looking at. Is this an increase or a decrease? What is the original amount? That kind of thing. So is it an increase or a decrease? It's now worth $2,500. It was $20,000. Is that an increase or is that a decrease? It's a decrease. And what was the amount of change? We take the original amount minus the current amount, and we get oops, I typed it in my calculator wrong. I always use the calculator because I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. 17,500. What was the original amount? Original? The original one was 20,000. All right. So 17,500%, and then 20,000. And so what do we got to do? Well, isolate that variable, divide both sides by 20,000. This should be a pretty high percent, right? Because it's really, really decreasing. 17,500 divided by 20%. Or excuse me, why did that's really weird. My calculator keeps turning off. .875 equals P. So we move that 1, 2, and it's an 87.5% decrease. Which sounds like a lot, right? And it should be a lot because the value decreased quite a bit. from 20,000 to 2,500. It's a big time decrease. Okay, if it decreased 100%, that would be a decrease and it would be $0. So that gives you kind of a scope for what we're talking about. All right, so sometimes we're going to need to find the new amount, not a percent. We'll have the percent. We'll need to find what the new amount is. So if we have to find the new amount, the first thing we got to do is find the amount of change. And we do that by setting up our equation. And of course, it's the same equation that we've been working with, right? And then if it's an increase, we're going to add the new amount, add the amount of change to the original value. If it's a decrease, we're going to subtract the amount of change from the original value. So notice the key differences between those two is if it's an increase, we add, and if it's a decrease, we subtract. That's going to be a big one. So we're going to write that down. Increase, add, decrease, subtract, which kind of makes sense, right? So step one, we need to find the amount of increase or decrease. And then two, we need to add or subtract. So add or subtract the original amount from the new amount. So Cameron had 75 songs on her phone and then downloaded more songs and what? And increased the number of songs by 140%. But Mr. Strand, how can I have over 140? How can I have over 100%? Well, if I increase it by 100%, that's like doubling it. Saying I have 100% of what I used to have. I'm increasing by another 100%. That's saying I added 75 and then I got another 75. 200% would be 75 and then 75 and then another 75. So adding two more 75s. So over 100% is just I'm going to increase by more than the original amount. Whereas in this case, the original amount is 75. So greater than 100% is an increase of greater than the original amount. Okay? So just something to keep that in mind. So how many songs are now on her phone? So we set up our equation, find the amount of increase or decrease. In this case, it's increase. All right. So the original amount was 75 songs, and the percent is 140, which remember, we're not writing down 140. We're writing down that as a decimal, which is 1.4, right? Because 140%. So 1.4. And that'll tell us what our new amount is. So our new amount is 105. Now we're not done though, because we're asking for how many songs are on her phone now, right? How many songs are now on her phone? Not how much did it increase by. So what we have to do is we have to do step two now. So this was step one. Now I have to do step two. Take the original amount and add in, because we're increasing, the new amount. And we get 180 songs. Keep in mind, these values, that's original amount, and that's the new amount. Oh, that was fast. Sorry. So yeah, there we go. It slipped on its own. Sorry about that. So once again, we're doing step one and step two. I want you to try this one on your own. Pause the video and see if you can try this one on your own. Keep in mind, you do step one and then you do step two. So go ahead and pause this video and see if you can do this one on your own. And then check back in with me. Go ahead and press play again when you're ready to check it. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video and you've got an answer. I'm going to go through this one a little quicker because of the idea that you've already attempted this problem. So Nick scored 20 points in his first game. That would be probably the original amount. Oops, I spelled original wrong. There we go. The number of points he scored in the second game decreased, that's important, by 40%. How many points did Nick score in the second game? So we're looking for the amount that he scored in the second game. All right, so here we go. Let's set up our problem. We're looking for the new amount. The percentage was 40%. Oops, excuse me, that's not right. I want to erase that. 40%, which we would write as 0.4, 0.4. And then the original amount, which is 20. And so we do 40% times 20. and we would get the new amount is 8. But careful, that is the amount. 8 is the decrease, right? 8 is the decrease. It's an 8-point decrease. So that's not what we're going to be doing now. So now what we have to do is we have to take the original minus that amount. So we're going to add or subtract from the original amount to get the new amount. 8-point decrease, so we have to take the original. I keep spelling original wrong, sorry about that. Which is 20. Subtract 8, which is the change. And that gives me 12 points in the second game. I realize now that I labeled the last slide incorrectly. Feel free to go back. I labeled this one as the new amount. That was wrong. It should have been the change. Sorry about that. 12 points in the second game. Oops, it's red. Well, whatever. It's all good. All right, so that's that. Hopefully you got it right. Your homework. I'm not sure exactly what assignment number is. I think it's 67, but I'm not sure. I bet you'll be able to tell by looking at the board or talking to your neighbors. Okay, cool. All right.